Hey guys, Mike Robertson, and it's been a long time since I made a video. I wanted to update you on some of the progress I've made in the shop and also some of the new equipment I've purchased. So what I have here is the Eliminator vacuum pump, which I use for this pot for stabilizing the wood or even bone, because I am making gun grips. And what I use with that is the cactus juice. I'll fill it up here, or even in this same thing, it's another stabilization chamber. Submerge the material that I'm using, and then turn on the vacuum pump and let all the air come out of the material until it's finally done, and then release the air, bringing the resin into the material. I then leave it in overnight in that same resin, submerged, and then the next day I dab it off and put it into a little oven and bake it at 200 to 210 degrees, depending on how the oven's working, for at least 3 hours to stabilize it. So these two here are the vacuum chambers used for stabilizing wood. This one here is a pressure pot, and I have actually an item in here right now I made last night. This one is for pressurizing epoxy and well, anything else, but I use it for actually forming the epoxy and getting the bubbles out of it. You would not use a vacuum chamber on epoxy. It'll pull air out of the material, and it'll also pull the air out of the epoxy so fast it'll just destroy your epoxy. So do not use your vacuum chamber with epoxy. You'll use a pressure pot. And then I'll go ahead and show you what I have in here, which I made last night, which is going to be a bowl out of pine cones, walnut, and some copper colored epoxy. And then I have a little compressor, which the compressor I use for bringing this up to at least between 45 and 55 pounds. And then I'll hold that overnight, 24 hours, and then release. So I'll go ahead and show you the item that I have inside. And then I'll show you real quickly some of these blanks that I've made for the, I don't even know where I put them now, for the gun grips, right here. Sorry, these gun grips here are off my 1911, and then these pieces are pieces I made out of walnut and already stabilized. And the interesting thing about this is that I weighed them, and most of them were around originally about 11 grams per blank. And after I stabilized them in the resin, which is in this pot here, and then baked it, they almost doubled the weight. So some of the ones that were 11 grams are 23 grams. I've got another one, 18 grams. It's now 23 grams. So it goes to show you that it's actually impregnated with that resin, which has made it more stable, which is stabilizing the wood. So I'll go ahead and open this up, and I'll show you what I made yesterday, and hopefully I can start turning it today and make a bowl. Okay, so I'm going to take this out of the bowl. It's going to take me a little while. I'm not going to bore you on the video with that. And then I'm going to just take a saw and chop these off and make this basically a solid blank, so I can get ready to put it on the lathe and start turning it. So I'm going to do some of that stuff, and then I'll be back before you know it. Okay, I finally got this out of the bowl, and the center one out. Got a little cut. That was kind of tough, and I ended up hitting one of these with my thumb here. But one thing I did find when I took this all apart is that there are some pretty good cracks in it, but they don't go through the outside. It looks like they're just on the inside where the pine cones are. So I'm not going to give up on this. I'm going to turn it, and hopefully at some point I'll stop, and then I'll re-epoxy it. It'll take some time through this process, but I do feel that this will look really cool when it's all done. So I'll go ahead and get this turned a little bit so I can get it on the chuck on the lathe, and then I'll get back with you so you can watch me turn it. Okay, here's the epoxy bowl that I'm making with the pine cones and the walnut, the vertical walnut pieces and the walnut base and the walnut top. You can see I got a lot of cracks and I'm not sure why. Maybe because I did all these vertical pieces of wood, or maybe it just got a little hot inside the pot. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue turning this, and then I'll set it back down in another one of the buckets, and I'll pour some clear in it and let it set up, and then I'll turn it again, and that should fill in all these cracks. I'll show you a little bit here with the negative rate. So you can see that cuts it really smooth, and that's the negative rake. So again, I'm going to continue. You can see this stuff makes a complete mess. And this is basically how much I've got just from this turning this bowl here. I haven't even done the inside yet. So I'm going to go ahead and turn more, and then I'll show you guys a little bit more after that. Okay, here's this bowl that I'm turning. You can see the walnut base, walnut top. And you can kind of see the way I ran those vertically, the pine cones, but I do have a lot of cracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down inside of another container, something like this, but a little on the larger side so it fits in. And then I'm going to pour epoxy around it and let it soak in, and then turn it again. And that should actually fill all these cracks. The cracks go completely through, but everything's pretty solid. It just needs to fill those cracks. So I'm going to mix a little of the epoxy with a little bit of the copper color, and then soak it, and then turn it again. So I had to put the bowl back in this pressure pot because I had so many cracks. And what I ended up doing was I kept it overnight at 40 pounds, and then let it sit, which I'm hoping, and I'll show you how I actually ended up doing the mold around it. And it looks like it lifted up pretty far, actually. I taped it, but it still looked like it lifted up. It didn't leak. So I had to wrap this bowl with some type of a plastic material, which is an old map I had, and basically poured epoxy on the inside and the outside to seal up all the cracks. Okay, so it's been a couple days since I got back with you guys on that bowl, and I ended up having to do a lot more touch-up. You can see here that I had a couple little spots. So I filled those spots and used little pieces of this clear plastic. Just like on the inside, it has a little spot also that I had to hot glue and then pour some epoxy in. On this one, I actually cut a band around just underneath the walnut while it was on the lathe. Did a notch in there, and then I poured some green mixed with some clear and copper epoxy, which once I turn it, I think it'll look real nice with that band. So I'm going to do that a little bit later. I am going to be making another video. I wanted to show you the blanks here, which are for gun handles. So this is from my 1911. These are pieces of walnut that I've already made for the grips. I just haven't beveled them yet. I did stabilize these in the vacuum chamber with cactus juice. And again, these are double in weight. And then this one here, these walnut grips are made from this. This is just another one that I already did. So it just to show you how nice they are for walnut. And then the other thing I'm going to make a video on later is I take these these bones that I'll get from the store, and I'll run them again. There's other videos I've seen guys do where this flat section right here and possibly right here, I'll run it through a bandsaw, and then I will do the same on the belt sander, sand them down to profile them, drill them out, mark them, and then this one here is the bone handle that I've made by that, right? And then this one here, it's the same, but I went ahead and carved it and did a clown face or whatever. But this bone, which profiled very nice, is cow bone, and it's from the one I got at Petco at the store. So anyway, that'll be another video that we do at some other time. But what I'm going to do now is I'll go ahead and profile out the bowl and try to get this thing completed for us, since that's what this video is about. It's about this bowl, not about those. But those grips will be in another video, so subscribe please, and just send your comments. Okay, you can see this stuff kind of goes everywhere, but that's okay. That's the fun of it. The stuff kind of peels off. But it's looking good. You can see that band I put around that looks really nice. The green with the copper and the clear, and the pine cones coming through. So I'll go ahead and clean out the inside, and then I'll start sanding. Okay, so that's enough for the turning on the lathe, at least on the outside and also on the inside. I'll have to put it back on to part this off afterwards, but I think I'm going to start sanding it. I'm real happy with it. I had to put it back in the pressure pot 3 times to fix some cracks. You see the cracks originally were really big. They're gone. I was just real careful to mix the same type of epoxy with the same amount of copper when I put it in, so I wouldn't see a difference. So I'm real happy. I'll bring it in here. I'm real happy with the way this turned out on the green band. I used the parting tool and made a groove, and it looks real good the way that it actually separated through the bands of the walnut. However, the bands are completely solid on the inside. They look like they're not on the out. So I'm real happy with that. So I'm going to sand this. Don't give up if you're making a bowl or something out of epoxy starts cracking. You can possibly fix it if you take your time. You don't have to use a pressure pot, but I did use it on every one of the times that I had filled something or tried to fix some kind of issue with it. So I'm not going to show you the sanding. I'm going to go all the way through the grits up to 3500, and then we'll polish it and see how it turns out. But as of right now, I'm real happy with it. We'll be back with you that quick. All right, so this was sanding so far up to 1500. And I sprayed a little lacquer sanding sealer on the walnut here, but you can see it's looking pretty nice. I'm real happy with it. Give you an idea what it looks like with some light in it. So that's pretty cool. Okay, well, I took it off the lathe, I parted it off, polished it, and pretty happy with it. There's a couple little spots I guess I just saw that I might want to fill with a little CA glue and just lightly polish up, but for the most part it looks good. So I'm going to put my brand on it and get on to the next project. Okay, you guys, so that's my project for this epoxy bowl with pine cones, and I'm all done. I got the little mark on here, handcrafted by Mike Robertson, and I'm really happy with this bowl. So anyway, please subscribe. I'm going to make another video coming up, and it's going to be again on making those handles for my 1911 out of bone, and then I'll show you how I carve them using a Shofu carver, high-speed carver. Not a Dremel tool, but a high-speed carver, 350,000 RPMs, dental tool. So I look forward to it and hope you subscribe. Take care.